Okay.
All right. Here we go. In three, two. Well, hello and welcome into another episode of New York's Asset Protection Roundtable, a three pillars of protection program. I'm Ben George alongside Ted Alatsis, attorney and counselor at law at the Alatsis Law Firm. Ted, welcome in today. How are things with you?
I'm great, Ben. How are you?
I'm doing well, getting geared up for Thanksgiving. Do you have any big travel plans, or do you still try to work a little bit around Thanksgiving?
Well, try to take the weekend off if we can, and try to enjoy some time with the family and visit with my daughter who'll be in from college, and
Nice.
spend time doing that.
That's great. That's great. Well, we hope everyone has a great Thanksgiving, and we appreciate all your support of the podcast this year. And just want to say thank you as we get ready to jump into another conversation today about estate planning, but specifically today, kind of talking about the industry itself. There's a lot of people that are trying to provide estate planning services. There's a lot of websites, general practice attorneys, and even some financial advisors and CPAs that are trying to attack, maybe minimize, or even double dip when it comes to estate planning. They're even either trying to treat it as a one-off transaction, saying it isn't really necessary, or they're trying to create fill-in-the-blank templates that can be recycled so they can get extra fees. But even some are even breaking the law by giving legal advice without a law license. So be aware of that as well. But today on this episode, we're going to cover some of these examples and just help you kind of be aware of some of the things you need to watch out for if you want to do it yourself. And there are some people, right, Ted, that like to do the do it yourself option, although it may not be obviously as comprehensive as working with an attorney, but it is an option.
It certainly is. LegalZoom and some other major internet companies are out there offering all kinds of services, not just in the estate planning area, but estate planning is one of the biggest drivers. And yeah, for some people, that may be an appropriate way to go about planning your estate. But as we'll talk about, I think today we'll discuss some of the pitfalls in doing that.
Well, I want to start off with the websites, kind of what you talked about there. I think people have heard of LegalZoom, maybe Rocket Lawyer. There's some other bigger names out there as well that have really kind of taken estate planning and like kind of everything else in our life. Ted, we make it an algorithm, right? We decide, hey, you do a drop down menu, just kind of follow the prompts, answer a few questions, and then boom, we've got your estate plan ready to go. Does that work well?
So, you'd have to really be cognizant of the fact that when you use programs like that, there is no attorney behind it who's going to, give you the guidance that what you've done is appropriate. You're not going to have the follow through and the ability to verify that what you've done in putting your estate plan together on a program or a platform like that. That you've done it appropriately, that you've done it in the proper format, that you've done it with the proper execution guidelines, or that you've funded it, right? So, you really are at, you really are the driver and the person who is responsible for everything. And unless you know what you're doing, you may run into some serious problems. And unfortunately, those problems, won't come up until after you're gone, and they'll be the problems of your beneficiaries.
And with those two, somebody's building out this website, they're programming this website. So they obviously can't customize everything that's in there, right? They basically kind of built these templates out and you have to kind of fall into one of them, right? For them to kind of finish their services.
That's exactly right. And we also are in that marketplace as well. If you go to our website, we have an online tab that you can go in, and if you wanted to do your own documents, there is that ability to do that. But the difference between our sets of documents and our program and these other commercial entities that are out there is that ours are attorney supervised. So at the end of the day, when you've completed your tabs, you've completed your work, I'm looking at them and I'm going to review them, and I'm going to make sure they kind of fit what your guidelines in. And then I'll certainly be giving guidance as to what needs to be done, what the next steps would be. And we also offer, the signing assistance and the assurance and the backing behind those documents to make sure that everything kind of conforms with the law, so that you get, the full gamut of what you're paying for. These other documents, these other programs, they run into that No, it's all about the user, right? So if the user doesn't know what they're doing, the user's gonna screw it up. And so, we try to avoid that certainly.
Yeah, that's a good point. And maybe we'll talk a little bit more about that for anyone that wants to, has an interest in your DIY services as well. We'll kind of point them in that direction towards the end of the show. So that's websites. Let's talk about other attorneys. I kind of touched on this a little bit, but there are some kind of general practice attorneys that are adding estate planning to maybe their offerings. To kind of maybe create a little bit of a side hustle as well, and they can create these templates much like the computer systems do that can really just let you fill in the blank and get your estate plan set up that way, and it allows them to add a little bit extra money to their bottom line as well. Have you seen this? And what is the risk of going with someone that's not a specified estate planning attorney?
Well, it all depends on the complexity of your estate. There are certainly, good general practice attorneys out there, and I used to be one of them, who, could provide, very basic general estate planning advice, and can provide very basic general estate planning documents like a simple last will and testament. And for some people, that's fine. You really have to evaluate what your specific needs are and what your specific goals are. And if the person that you're working with isn't able to answer the questions that you need answered, or alternatively, ask the questions that you haven't even thought about, of you, and then give you the guidance to assist you with the answers to those questions, then you're really doing yourself and your family a disservice, simply because you're trying to cut corners with regards to your estate planning. I mean, estate planning is a very personal thing that we do. It involves everything that we've put together in our entire lifetimes, and to give it short shrift or to give it a very limited amount of attention is probably a disservice, that too many people are inclined to engage in.
I mean, it's as simple as saying, "Hey, you wouldn't go to a divorce lawyer to build out your estate plan, right?" I mean, it's like I wouldn't go to an estate planning attorney to file my divorce, right? Is it as simple as these specialties are there for a reason?
Yeah, that's generally right. At the end of the day, if you want specific, professional, reliable advice, you want to go to someone who actually does it on a day in day out basis and understands what the consequences are, tax consequences, implementation consequences, things of that nature. And just someone doing a will is just slightly better than going to an online program and doing it yourself.
Okay. What about other professionals? I know there's some certifications out there for people in other professions like real estate, tax, insurance, financial services industries. Then they can kind of claim they're an estate specialist, so to speak. So if someone has a certification, but not that law degree that you have, what does that even mean, first of all? And I mean, I guess, are any of these regulated by the bar associations at all?
Well, I mean, certainly when a financial planner is doing estate planning documents, that's probably running afoul of the law to begin with.
Okay.
Unauthorized practice of law. So that's number one. Secondarily, when someone who isn't licensed to practice law is performing services, you don't have very many protections if things go wrong. So it becomes a real problem in that respect, and things can go wrong, and that is the courthouses are open for business.
Hmm.
5 days a week because things go wrong. They're not there because things are going right all the time, right? So at the end of the day, it's important to have someone who not only has the professional training and understanding of what they're doing, but also has the responsibility and the knowledge to go with it. So certainly, it's that, I don't, I tell people during our workshops that a perfect example is the healthcare proxy, right? Most people will get their healthcare proxy at a doctor's office or in a hospital, and we're going to start giving out prescriptions because it's the same. It's the same concept. That's a legal document that doctors are doing. Well, nobody expects to get a prescription for pharmaceutical from a lawyer's office. It's sort of the same thing. Um, so get your stuff done by an expert.
And I guess it goes without even really saying that there's probably no support along the way too, right? When issues come up down the road, if you're working with someone that's not a lawyer that practices every day. If you're working with someone that's just kind of an estate specialist and has some kind of certification, there's just going to be no support.
Yeah, absolutely. And if anything gets challenged or anything gets taken to court or is dealt with, that person is going to have to hire a lawyer anyway. So why would you buy yourself a lawsuit like that? Get yourself an attorney, have the attorney assist you. That's what you should do. This is important stuff. Don't give it short shrift.
So these are some things to be on aware of and be on the lookout for if you're looking to maybe do your estate planning separate from an attorney. Want to maybe save a little bit of money, try one of these other routes. There are some things to be aware of. But as you did mention earlier, Ted, that your Alatzis law firm does offer the opportunity for a little DIY estate planning as well. I know if you log on alatzislawfirm.com, if you look along the top menu items, you'll see the DIY documents there. You click that up, it pulls up all the online legal documents. So again, you touched on how you differentiate yourself with this versus what you'll find on other websites. But what does that process look for someone? Is it just as simple as hopping on, filling out a couple of forms, and then they'll hear from you?
Yeah, there's a detailed questionnaire as the user is going through the program, and depending on what the specific needs are, if the online document platform is appropriate for them, it will generate whatever documents they're specifically looking for. In this instance, will, a power of attorney, a healthcare proxy, a living will, that sort of thing. Very basic documents, but the difference between our platform and the other platforms that are popular and out there is that our platform, the documents are supervised by an attorney. So once they're done, you can't conclude the transaction until I've read or reviewed, or someone from my office has read or reviewed those documents and found them to be appropriate to your needs, and to the questionnaire that you've filled out. So once we've reviewed them and we sign off, then at that point the transaction can be completed. But you don't go through any cost until that's completed.
So it might be an option for someone that has maybe a simpler estate plan they need to get taken care of, or someone that maybe does want to save a little bit in costs.
Yeah, absolutely. Or doesn't have the time necessarily to come in for a meeting or to go
Okay.
through a complicated estate. If someone's just really looking for something relatively simple, maybe they want to do a simple power of attorney, or maybe they're in college and they have a bank account. They just want to make, certain wishes made known. Then that's the person who would benefit a great deal from this.
Very good. Again, you can find it online, alatzislawfirm.com. You'll also find other great resources there, including this podcast, videos, and much, much more. So again, if you want to get in touch with Ted, start there, but you can also call as well. 718-233-2903 is that number. All right, good stuff, Ted. I know there's a lot of, I guess, competition. I used air quotes as I say that out there, but I know it is important that you do your diligence when it comes to estate planning and make sure you have everything covered and done the way you want it to, so that you can avoid any headaches down the road and any trouble for your family. So we appreciate you taking us through this today, and we'll do it again soon.
Absolutely.
Thank you for listening to New York's Asset Protection Roundtable, a 3 pillars of protection program for Ted Alatzis in Brooklyn, New York. I am Ben George. Take care. All right.